Hello and welcome to MindCare, where we address all things mental health and trauma. Our motto actually is turning traumas into testimonies through the working and power of His mind. You know, our aim is really just trying to help individuals to be transformed by the working of God and His power. And the work that He wants us to do is actually show people that they can be well mentally, physically, and spiritually when we apply the principles that He has outlined for us. If you have not already done so, please like this channel, subscribe, share these videos as we bring more and more topics that are important to all of us in this society, especially dealing with mental health. We're tired of hearing, aren't we, the situation with suicide and people's lives are being turned upside down because of family members that are dealing with mental health. And so the Lord has put upon our hearts to minister to people in that sense. And so that's why we're here. I have my sister Tony here with me.
Hello.
She's a dear sister and friend of mine and gone through some things in life.
Yes.
And I think through her experience and her now life work, she's bringing glory to God and ministering to many hearts and souls.
Yes.
And so she's going to be sharing some things with us. We're going to be having a discussion based on a question that our viewers have. We are allowing you guys to share questions with us so that we can answer those questions for you. One of the questions that came to us, Tony, was how can we forgive, or rather, let me say exactly how the person said it. Is forgiveness necessary to have good mental health? Is forgiveness necessary? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? But that's an easier answer. And why do you think that's such an important topic to be having right now? Why is forgiveness such an important topic?
You know, it can really, it could be just so stuck in the past where God wants to bring healing, but without being willing to forgive, it could really trap us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was a Facebook conversation that was being had, and people who are in the professional world of helping people with mental health, and they were saying that is not necessary for you to be in good health, and people were cheering and saying, yes, you know, we need to tell people that, and we don't need to tell people that forgiveness is a part of this conversation. And so I put a little tab in there. I was like, yes, it is. Oh my goodness, the beating that I got. I actually had to leave the page because I was just like, this is not even a healthy conversation. I don't even know how we're thinking of helping people without addressing the subject of forgiveness. And I think sometimes too, people think that forgiveness has something to do with the other person, whereas more so to do with who?
Ourselves.
With ourselves, isn't it?
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So what's your take on that? What's your...
Well, I have an experience that I'd love to share.
Oh, sure.
That would really shed some light, you know, on what I've learned about forgiveness. So when I was 14, I was a victim of sexual battery. And that was the third time that it happened to me. So by that time, I was, you know, very depressed and, you know, suicidal. And, you know, I felt like I had a target on my head and that there was nothing I can do to prevent it from happening. So after some years, probably like 10 to 12 years later, after working through an emotional healing workbook, and just reading about forgiveness and how important it is, and, you know, just going through the stages of healing, I prayed and felt like God was telling me that it's time to forgive, not only to forgive this person, but to actually reach out.
Wow.
Call him.
Wow.
And tell him.
Wow.
And I learned God doesn't always do that with
No,
every
he
person,
doesn't.
right?
And I
But
don't think that's very personal, right? You had a connection
yes,
with God where God was telling you this is
yes,
what he wants you to do. So I even know people who they were victimized by someone who's passed away.
right,
And so, that's not an option necessarily either, right?
right, right.
So, but in your case, you were saying that God told you to reach out to that
Yes,
person.
yes. And I believe that the reason why he put that on my heart to do is
Uh-huh.
because that person was also a believer.
I see. I
So,
see.
well, let me share more of the story and then kind
Okay.
of circle back around to other things that I've learned with that. So I called this person and he picked up the phone and we we had that conversation. It was awkward,
Of course, yeah.
uncomfortable, but I was happy. I was proud to have come that far to even be willing to be obedient, to
Yeah.
something like that. So we had the conversation, and at the end of the conversation, after telling him I forgive you, he was quiet for a while, and I wasn't sure what he might have been thinking.
Right.
But he said it was like a sigh of
For
relief.
him.
And he said yes, and he said thank you so much, thank you so much. He said that he was feeling, like shame and guilt, and that now he feels freed up to actually reconnect with God.
Hmm.
And that really opened my eyes.
Hmm.
I mean,
Wow.
it really,
Wow. That's taking it to a whole different
that,
level, isn't it?
yes.
That's taking it
So
to a whole different level.
after the phone call, I'm thinking about everything and I'm thinking, okay, God, why is it open my eyes so I can really capture all of what just happened?
Hmm.
And what I found out was that God allowed me to be a part of the restoration of
For
this man.
this man.
Yes.
Interesting.
And you know what? That felt amazing.
To you, right? But
Yes. So on a
being
level,
real though,
hmm
that is not an easy
no,
task. Neither
no,
are we all called to
right,
necessarily do that.
right,
So,
because there were other people
yeah.
that victimized me, and God didn't lead me to call those people.
Okay. So that we want to be clear of that too, because that's not something that's necessarily we have to reach
Right,
out to that person and talk to that person, and
right,
and you might feel that impression to do so. And here's something too: you might try to reach out to that person, and they completely denied the
hmm
fact that they did something wrong.
yes. And at first, he actually completely denied it.
Yeah.
At first,
See.
but I said, hey, we both know what happened. That's not what I called about, right? It's not to like shame you or condemn you. It's actually to forgive you. But it was only because of the strength of God to actually,
And that's it.
continue on with that
That's
call.
it. I'm so glad you said that. That's
Yeah.
the strength of God, my
Yes.
sister.
Yeah. It's
That
not
is
in
the
us.
strength of
It
God
is not
to
in
be
us.
able to do something
Right.
like
But
that.
it was so freeing,
Hmm.
so freeing like, on more than one level.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, it was beautiful to be able to do that and to not be just stuck in holding a grudge or the anger that comes along with unforgiveness. That was beautiful.
I have.
But also to
Uh-huh.
experience him being like restored to God in his own personal relationship with God. But another thing that God told me too about
Okay.
forgiving people that sin against you is this: at one point, we don't know when that person might turn to God and say, Lord, please forgive me. And if they ask God for forgiveness, will God forgive them?
He
Absolutely.
would. He would.
Absolutely.
He would.
So then who am I to hold that against them
Right.
when God
Right.
himself is
For
willing
you
to
to
forgive?
forgive them.
Yes. Yes.
It's
So none of it is not easy at
it's not
all.
forgiveness. I don't think we're saying it's easy, are we?
No.
Please don't think that's what we're
No.
saying, because
No,
that's
no, no.
not at all an easy. Now there are people who find forgiveness to be very easy.
Mm.
They're able to do it freely without any concern. And if that's one of you guys, let me know. I know you guys are up there. You guys do exist. But one of the things that I like to say about forgiveness is that it's a heart work. You probably heard me say that
Yes.
before,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Heart work is that it's a healthy, is empathetic, is admirable, it's a recovery treatment.
Yes.
It really, truly is. But it's admirable because it's not something that people easily do.
Right.
It's not something that we can easily say, I'm going to forgive. No matter what you do to me, I'm going to go ahead and forgive.
Right.
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 But we know
Not easy.
it is definitely necessary. Ask anybody who have forgiven someone. And I wish that's what I should have told, on that chat when they were like bashing me, like, you don't need forgiveness and trauma. Is
That's
ask
someone.
anybody who's been able to forgive and see what they say about their healing process.
That's a good point, and I'm glad you mentioned that just now. It's
Mm-hmm.
so true.
Mm-hmm.
And from my own experience, just that one experience alone and the freedom that's felt afterwards is totally worth it.
Right. But now here's some of the myth that people have. They might have the myth that you're weak. To forgive is to show weakness. What would you say to that person?
No, that's actually, it takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength and courage to even entertain the thought of forgiving someone that's hurt you.
Or how about the other myth that to forgive means that you're letting the other person off the hook?
No. Yeah, forgiveness. I felt that way, so I understand the concern, the misunderstanding there. But no, it's not saying it's okay to do
What you
to
did,
hurt me. Right.
It's go out and hurt somebody else.
Right. Exactly. No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
But to have that feel, it's a feeling, isn't it?
It's
a
yes,
feeling.
Yes, it is.
They say that forgiveness is letting go of a feeling of resentment.
Yes.
And bitterness.
Yes.
So remember this: forgiveness. The process of forgiveness has something to do with your feeling. So if you want to hold on to resentment and bitterness, you won't forgive.
Right.
It's something I want to hold on to it. But who's the one that's feeling the most hurt?
Right. It would be the person holding on to the unforgiveness.
Holding on.
Yeah.
And honestly, God truly wants us to have deliverance. That deliverance is also giving up things. If we're holding on to things that's heavy, bitterness and resentment is heavy.
Yes.
Because then you gotta go out of your way to move away from that person, where that person is. I don't want to be.
Right.
I've been there.
It takes a lot of energy.
It does take a lot of energy. And that feeling, when you can finally let that feeling go through the art of forgiveness, it's powering.
It is. It is.
It's definitely powering.
Yeah. And I'm glad you shared that. It's so true. It's being able to be around the person, but of course having the safe boundaries to protect yourself. But
yeah,
and it's okay.
I like that. Having the safe boundaries to protect you against the person.
Yes.
Because you don't want to get to the same predicament again over and over again, right?
Right.
You've had people that says, well, I'm going to forgive, and that means, the person, I give them the right to continue doing what they're doing again. No. You protect yourself. If you're in a situation where, you don't feel safe around that person, you get away. You can still forgive. You don't have to be around the person to forgive either.
Right.
So that's a very important thing to remember as well. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there's so many different circumstances, but I was starting to share that if, let's say you see the person, so like in my situation, that was in childhood. If I came across the person today, it would be different. You know what I mean? But let's say in the case of the person that I called and shared that with him, that I forgave him, that I could be in the same space with him, knowing that I have a voice, I'm going to protect myself, but it's without the resentment, without the anger, without all of those things that are like, it's like being in bondage.
That's right. That's right.
But instead of that, it's just experiencing the freedom, the peace, I can, and it's not to say, hey, we're going to be best friends, right?
Now, it can happen. Don't get me wrong, cordial,
right? Yeah, in certain situations, for sure.
Right. So that to say, what is the art? What is the process? And what's the practical way of going about forgiveness? And that's something that we need to talk about too, because we talk about forgiveness and people are like, well, is it something that I just say? What is it? I really believe that forgiveness is an experience. It's an experience where you're connecting with God in such a way that God will give you the peace, right,
Yes.
to go along with what He's telling you to do in your
Yes.
case or to say. So once you have
Yes.
that connection, then it becomes a way, of asking God, what do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to write a letter?
Right.
Do you want me to just know in my heart that I've forgiven the person? Do you want me to reach out to that person? And so,
Yes.
the Lord will make it very clear to you what is
Yes.
that next step.
Yes.
And all of these things might be appropriate for one person, and it might be a different way for another person.
Yes.
I had a friend, this is years ago now, she wanted to confront the person that did something really horrible to her. And we went to, it was in a Caribbean island. We went to take a vacation, and that person lived there. And she wanted us. She took me, my sibling, to that location to go talk to that person. I would never forget that. So for her, she needed that encouragement.
Yes.
So it might be, take someone else with you to share what's on your heart. That, look, I know, you know what you did, and the Lord have told me, I want my witness. You might need that, support, and if she had that support to say, I've forgiven you, and you will never do that to me again, and you've never been able to do it to me, since. But still, I want you to let you know that I am over it.
Right. Right. Right.
So different ways about going about, this path of forgiveness, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And when you said that, for some reason, it made me think of in the beginning what that can look like. In the beginning, that can look like literally just writing it down.
Yeah.
Because we have to face it, right? We have to be to not be in denial or what have you, but that offers some sort of like validation.
Right.
To just take the time and write it down. This happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I struggled afterwards. These are the lies that I believed after that happened. Just getting it out of your mind, I think, at first. So it can look like that. The very first step could look something like that.
Now, is there a feeling that comes with it? Like, do you feel what?
That's a good question. Well, very honestly, I mean, it can feel a little re-traumatizing a little bit, like revisiting these places. But what I've learned along the way is that you're not stuck there. It's like you're passing through.
Okay.
It's getting it out. It's like detoxing. You're getting it out. It needs to come out, and then you handle it appropriately, and then you could move through the storm.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
It's not getting
so
stuck.
Forgiveness
It's just moving
is a
through.
Detoxing process.
Yes. Yes.
If you ever done detoxing, it's not a pretty sight sometimes, right?
Right. But on the other side, you're going to be relieved and free.
Yeah. And that's the key. We want to offer that freedom to people.
Yes.
We don't want to tell them that not to forgive. That's holding back a gift that they can have in their lives, right?
Yes.
To have that freeing, the gift of being free. I don't know, the best I can compare it to is if you've ever been in debt to something, right? And let's say you pay off that car, that last check that you write to pay off that car,
yes,
or that house, if you're, in that place that you could do that. It's such a free thing. It feels so wonderful.
Yes.
Right? To be able to give that to yourself at any time when you choose, when you're ready to say, I want that freedom.
Yes.
It's powerful.
Yes, it is.
It is very powerful.
Yes, it is.
And here's something else too. Once you have forgiven a person, sometimes you can feel that, well, maybe I didn't forgive. That's a lie. That's a lie of the enemy. Once you truly have forgiven, you got to sometimes remind yourself, I've already forgiven that thing. I've already moved past that situation where God has told me that I need to forgive that person. And so don't go back. Don't take it back. Don't keep going backwards. It's the same thing too. When God forgives you, he says, I've forgiven you.
Yes.
So don't think, oh, no, he didn't forgive me. I'm too bad.
That's true. Good
I'm
point.
Too horrible. Same
very
concept,
good point.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
So just take it for what it is. Once you've forgiven, accept it. Remind yourself at times that you have forgiven.
In my life, where I've had to forgive them, I feel like 15 or 20 times, it seemed like. But I agree with what you're saying. It's just reminding myself, like, wait a minute. No, I forgive this person, because sometimes the emotions and everything comes back, right? The memories and everything, it can kind of sweep over you and feel
That's
very
right.
overwhelming in the moment. Um, but remembering the progress that was made
That's right.
along that healing journey. Like, no, you know, and part of it, I think, too, is what helps is understanding how a person could reach that place in their own life to commit that hurt
Mm.
anyway,
Mm.
and that's helped significantly.
That's the empathetic part of it,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Right. Something must have
absolutely.
happened to them
Yes.
to be.
And then to not, sometimes, there's a lot of pain over and over, it feels like, when they're still living,
Right.
but they haven't come to forgive you,
Right.
right? And it's like, how do you forgive that person? And you kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, where this person, because there were years in my life that I was like waiting. The person probably didn't even know that I was waiting, but I was waiting for them to,
Ask you for forgiveness.
yes, yes, so many years. I was waiting for that,
And that
and
probably would never come sometimes.
right,
And
that's a sad
and it's
truth.
not necessarily about the person asking you for forgiveness. If they did, that would be wonderful.
Right.
And sometimes
Yes.
you're not even ready to offer
That's
that.
true.
So they might even come to you and you're like, get out my face,
Right,
like what
right.
what you've done,
Right,
and
exactly.
and you should pay for it, and
Right.
I wish you nothing but whatever. But
Right.
ultimately, again, it goes back to, when do you want that freedom?
Yes, for
When do you
yourself.
want to feel that that load be taken off of you?
Yes.
When do you want to pay off that debt that been carrying for so long?
Yes. Yep. And I would strongly encourage
Do it now.
anyone to, yes, if you haven't experienced it yet, try it out. Try it out, because once you've experienced it significantly, you would want to, who else is next on the list?
That's right. That's right. Go around
Because you
forgiving
start
everybody.
yes, yes, yes. I mean,
Forgive
in the
everybody.
beginning, just the thought of it, if you haven't experienced it, right? Just the thought of it it doesn't make sense.
Right.
I don't understand this. But continue to do the work, continue on your healing journey, and you would see just how freeing it is.
That's exactly
and it
it.
wouldn't sound strange anymore. Yeah, you'll have the understanding more once you actually do it.
That's right. That's right. So if you guys, again, have any questions, please submit your questions 706 609 0404, and we will answer your mental health question
Yes.
in our next conversation. We're excited to be doing this. By the way, we have some books that we are putting out there, letting you know that it's available to anyone who's really wanting to be well mentally and want to help others as well. This one is called Mental Health Curriculum for Youth. So it's particularly a workbook that gives stories, activities, questions, and information to start the conversation. Start the conversation with your youth as earlier at the better. And then we have another one called The Working of This Mind, another powerful book that goes into the mental health solution. What is the solution that God wants us to have, and how to be well? And if you're just a quick reader and you don't have time to dive into all the research and so forth, we've done the research for you and provided a quick mental health guide for trauma, just answering various mental health questions. So we thank you for your time. I don't know, Tony, if you want to have any last comment on this topic of forgiveness.
No, just it's a very important work. Actually, it's a very important work, and do not give up. Try not to give up. Keep pushing through. It will be worth it.
The sooner you do it, the better.
Yes, take the baby steps.
Do it. That's right. And God will give you the strength. He'll give you the words. He'll give you the action plan. And if you need to talk to someone about what should I do, we're able to even provide you some guidelines. We have written some podcasts and blogs on our website on this very topic of forgiveness as well. So feel free to check out those things. Meanwhile, if you have not already done so, I'm going to tell you again, like this video, subscribe to our channel, click that button to remind you of our next video that's coming up, and share. More importantly, the more you share, the more you are helping someone that you probably never knew
Yeah.
needed this information.
Yes.
So God bless you, and hope to see you in our next video.
Yes. See you next time.